I'm Glenn McGinnis, and this is Outburst. On the program, have extreme weather events in Canada changed your views on climate change?
Every summer, the fires are getting worse.
I just have more anxiety about climate change now. Yeah.
It was predicted that you'd have extreme climate variations.
You know, my opinion is still out there about what's affecting weather change.
In recent years in Canada, summers unfortunately go hand in hand with extreme weather, flooding, and forest fires in different parts of the country. This has resulted in some cases with people having to flee their communities and losing their homes and possessions. One of the common explanations for this is climate change having an adverse effect on the weather, while others may say this is the natural way the Earth renews itself and it's to be expected. So, what do you think? Our question. Have the extreme weather events in Canada changed your view on climate change?
No, I'm not sure about the extreme weather in Canada. I've been here a long time. I've seen a lot of change in the weather, over the decades. So I'm still, my opinion is still out there about what's affecting weather change. I watch a lot of the science shows, and there's massive sunbursts this year, some of the biggest ever by the sun. So I'm wondering if that's affecting things or if it's real climate change.
I think it just shows that, the Earth's climate changes. That's what happens. I'm sure that it's also brought on by human activity for sure, obviously, but I think if you look in the past, it's always had extreme changes like this. We're probably making it worse, but yeah. So my opinion hasn't changed, no.
It's just way bigger than humanity, and I'm not saying throw up your hands, there's nothing you can do about it, but I'm also really questioning this idea that it's human caused.
I wouldn't say just Canada, but yeah, I think I'm a believer in it. Now, as for the reason, the cause, I think that's debatable. I have my own thoughts behind that, but I don't think you can ignore the extremes, the frequency of record after record, that type of thing.
Yes, they have increased my view of the severity and the seriousness of the issue for sure. I've always been concerned about it, but it's an ongoing concern, absolutely.
No, they've just reinforced the fact that climate change is happening and just getting worse and worse, and that we really have to work to try and mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and look at our own lifestyles.
I don't know if I would say they've changed my view, but they've made me more aware of how fast things are happening.
Oh, definitely. I definitely see something has to be done. And individually it's pretty difficult, but if we all band together, we can do something.
Great. And I'll ask the same question to you.
I believe the Earth is going to do what it needs to do, and we're going to help her. So yes, things are changing, but the world always changes. So as long as we band together,
yes,
it'll be okay. We'll make it through.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
No, I've been kind of keeping track and concerned and studying climate change for over 30 years, actually, since 1989. So it was predicted that you'd have extreme climate variations to a point where it'd be incredibly disruptive and destructive as well. And we had the wildfires here and the floods and the extreme temperature extremes, the incredibly wet weather in the east and extremely dry weather in the west. So all across the country has been pretty dramatic, but it's kind of in line with some of the predictions, probably earlier than people thought.
I've seen the effects firsthand, being a resident of the NWT and experiencing the evacuation in Yellowknife. It's real. It's these extreme weather events are not going to go away, so we really have to reflect on how we're treating the land, the water, the air, and do the most smallest action makes a big difference. Don't think you won't be able to do anything. I think concentrate on those small actions, not the overall action that's going to make a big change, not the big picture that you can't really manage, but you can manage what you do every day to help the overall picture.
I don't think they've changed it so much as just kind of made it more real. I already knew it was going on, and that how bad it was, but I think that they've just really brought it to light.
Well, I think it would be impossible to ignore the extreme weather, and I already feared that that there was a significant trend in climate change. So it hasn't really changed anything.
I mean, a little, because every summer the fires are getting worse, and obviously that's an issue that we all have to focus more on. So yes, I think I do believe my opinions have changed a little bit in the last couple of years, for sure.
Not really. My opinions about climate change were formed before the extreme weather, but I have noticed living in Yukon that our weather is much milder, and that makes me really nervous, because one of the reasons I love living in Yukon is we don't have any ticks. And if we don't get minus 40 for a few weeks in a row, then we start getting ticks up there, and I don't want any ticks. But no, climate change is real. We need to do something about it. My opinion was already formed.
I don't think they changed our view. We were already very concerned, but they've reinforced our view that climate is the social problem that we need to address.
Well, I'm a science teacher, so I think I have lots of information about climate change already, but it just, with all that's happening, it makes you realize how real it is and how soon we need to act. So yeah, it reinforced it for sure.
But I do notice that in like the more or in the warmer places like in the Philippines, it's the weather changes has been more dramatic, or it's been more extreme. Yeah, I would say. Yeah. So
they haven't changed it, because I always thought it was a pretty serious issue. I just have more anxiety about climate change now. Yeah.
Voter turnout for all levels of government has been a concern. The highest voter turnout for a federal election was back in 1958, when 79.4% of voters showed up that year. The lowest voter turnout in a Canadian election occurred in 2008, when 58.8% of eligible voters showed up at the polls. But would compulsory voting be a solution to the problem? It's practiced in over 20 countries around the world, most notably Australia, where if you don't vote, you'll be fined. But should we give that method a shot here? Our question. Should voting in elections be mandatory?
I don't think voting in elections should be mandatory. I don't think you're gonna get a person in power that you'd want if everyone was just forced to vote. You don't really have their choice, in a sense, if that makes any sense. Like, you're just kind of forcing them to pick a person, so they're not actually going to care about who they pick.
A definite yes. I think that there's just not enough people taking interest in what's going on, and then they complain about it later on. Definitely it should be mandatory. Take responsibility.
Yes, actually, it's mandatory in Australia, and I think that it's a public responsibility. Mind you, there are nuances about making voting mandatory, so there may be exceptions and issues to deal with, but in principle, yes, I think it should be a part of our public responsibility to vote.
No, I don't agree with that at all. No.
It's a personal choice.
Yeah, it's a personal choice, and the fact that it is a right, so it should be a right in the same token if it's not something that you want to participate in.
That's an interesting question, isn't it? I think it probably should be, actually. I mean, you would like to think that people would vote, but people are lazy sometimes, and it probably would lead to a better democracy.
It's a great question. I think it's an interesting exercise. Some countries do, and I know our rates of participation have been going down, so maybe that would be a good idea. Yeah, I would be in favor.
I think that's a way more complicated question than it sounds. I think there's some countries that do that, and I don't think it, as far as I know, I don't think it worked as well as it was expected to. I think the better approach is to inspire people to want to vote.
Absolutely not. We live in a free world, or a free country, right? That's part of the, democracy, right?
I mean, I think it's a privilege to be able to vote, and it's our right it's it's a right. We work, like, people worked hard for us to be able to vote, so I think it's our duty to sorry, French is my first language. Yeah, I think it's our duty to vote and to make sure our voice is heard.
Considering the drop in the percentage who are voting, especially municipally over the past few decades, I think it's very necessary to do that and to retain our democracy so that the majority doesn't have a reason to complain that, well, I don't like who got elected when they don't vote. When only 30% of the population dictates how the country is governed, then I believe it should be mandatory. I believe it's a civic responsibility.
No, definitely not. Imagine if it was mandatory and people who are totally uneducated have to make a vote. There's no way. That's like, I feel like there's so many people that aren't educated already and they're voting. So definitely not. I feel like people who care enough will vote, hopefully. And the people who don't probably shouldn't be voting anyway.
A lot of people are jaded or feel disenfranchised or just think, is anything really changing because of these people? So ideally, if there was a way we could have new conversations or ways where that we can bring the politician or the leadership in our land closer to the people, more of an interaction that would engage them, and more people would be motivated to vote because of engagement. I'm not sure I'd want to impose mandatory voting, but those are observations I would have.
I think so, but it has to be enforceable. Like our current system, as far as like going in or this whole like mail order thing, it's kind of silly. I think if there's an automated way to secure it, that'd be the way to go, and you'd have way more participation.
That's really a crazy question. I really believe it's good that we have a choice, and I think if it's mandatory, it can cause trouble. So no, I think we have a choice, and I think that's a great thing about living in a democracy.
To mandate it, yes, but you'd have to also have a reform of the political system that would allow for greater voice and greater choice.
That's a really good question, actually. I do like the idea, but at the same time, I'm not sure if everybody would agree with that. So it's one of those things that personally I find it very important. But whether to make it mandatory for everybody, if that's not their inclination, might be a bit tricky.
That's a really tricky question. If we can't get over the apathy that so many people seem to have, either through lack of credible candidates or some other thing that people don't seem to feel it makes a difference, I don't know. Would a mandatory vote be acceptable? It might be something to look at.
So some people make a point by not voting, and I want to leave that up to the person. I don't want to dictate to that person what they should do. I will always be on the side of using your ability to vote. Please use it as much as you can, but I don't want to dictate to people what they should do.
Being a citizen, being able to vote, should be a privilege and a right, and something that we all exercise. Most Canadians don't do it. I don't know why they don't do it. Making them do it, I mean, how would you police it? It would be awful. So making it mandatory would be, I think it'd be unmanageable.
What was former Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson's nickname? Mike, Chip, or Percy?
Was it Chip?
I'll go with Percy.
Chip.
I'm going to go with Chip.
Percy.
I'd go with Percy.
I think Mike.
I have no idea. I'll go with Chip because I like it, but I don't know.
Chip.
Mike.
The answer, Mike.
Woohoo!
Hey,
all right.
Hey, nice job.
Lester B. Pearson was Prime Minister of Canada from 1963 to 1968. His many accomplishments as a diplomat include winning a Nobel Peace Prize in 1957 for his role in facilitating Britain and France's departure from Egypt during the Suez Crisis. As Prime Minister, Pearson ushered in the Canada Pension Plan, the Order of Canada, and in 1965, the new Canadian Maple Leaf flag. Lester B. Pearson was affectionately known as Mike, a nickname given to him by his flying instructor during World War I, because he thought Lester was not a suitable name for a pilot. For any nation, whoever is representing them is a big part of how that country projects themselves around the world. Here in Canada, a Prime Minister who can articulate Canada's best interests either through global policy or trade negotiations is vitally important. So we sent our cameras out to ask which of the federal party leaders is best for the job. Our question: which of the federal leaders would best represent Canada internationally?
I guess Pierre. I haven't got a lot to choose from at this point in time, so there you go.
Oh, probably Jagmeet Singh. Definitely Jagmeet Singh.
Right now, I'm still going to stick with Justin Trudeau.
I like Justin Trudeau. I'm a Liberal Party guy since Justin came in. His legalization of marijuana changed tourism in Vancouver, and I think it's been overall a very positive change.
Justin Trudeau is seasoned. So far, I believe he's the best out of all the leaders that we have to choose from. My opinion's changed about him over the years since he was elected from his sunny ways, but I still think he's the best one on the international stage, rather than somebody who might come across as more extreme like Poilievre, who's a bit right wing for me. However, he might be more tempered internationally if he were, or when he becomes Prime Minister. So, I think it's sort of up in the air at this point.
Internationally, Justin Trudeau. And I think because he's got a very balanced viewpoint of worldly, the state of the world, and he approaches it in a manner that I approve of, and I like his style.
I've voted for every political party under the sun over the years, and I always go for who I think is best at the time. And right now, I think mainstream is Poilievre would be the best to represent Canada internationally.
Justin Trudeau. He just very savvy diplomatically. He speaks French, English, and probably more languages. He has a good rapport with key international leaders.
I think the best representation internationally will be with the NDP and Jagmeet Singh, because he's the only one who actually see the situation in Palestine and talk about it for what it is, and kind of get away from the established narrative that's been going on right now with the current government.
I would have to say Trudeau, more because has the experience that the other ones don't have, and I think he treats people fairly.
Trudeau. He has the experience, he has the knowledge, he has good relations with most of the European countries. He serves us well. And to jump over to the Conservatives now is just madness. They don't have the right platform, and they don't know how to represent Canada, and they don't know how to keep this country together.
Internationally, I believe Jagmeet Singh would be a good candidate for that. And why? He just seems more level-headed, more impartial.
Well, we know the leader today isn't very good at foreign affairs, and I don't really have much faith in the other two. Our Conservative leader is strictly politics from high school, and I don't think has any general experience other than being in the House of Commons, I guess, or working for somebody in the House of Commons. So that gives me concern what kind of leadership we're putting forward. And the NDP, yeah, I don't think he'd be very good at anything.
Just going back to the leadership, probably Poilievre. I've met him a couple times, 2-3 times, and if he does what he says he'll do, I think he'd be the best, and he's definitely the most articulate.
Elizabeth May would be a very good representative for Canada, I think.
Probably in my mind, Trudeau. Just think he's probably a little bit more level for me. Yeah.
I tend to lean towards Trudeau.
Why is that?
Well, I'm a little suspicious of Poilievre being a bit of an opportunist, and Trudeau is intelligent and respected. It would be ideal to have somebody even better, but there we are.
Well, I like Trudeau. So I think he's been doing an adequate job of representing us internationally. So
I don't know. I don't think any of them can represent us properly. With the choices that we have right now, I'm not sure. I don't think anybody is quite up for that position just yet.
I don't know. I'm actually disappointed in all of the federal leaders at the moment. I feel like politics in general has become more about populism than about principle, and playing to different constituencies, but not really speaking to issues. So from my perspective, I'm not confident of any of our political leaders. I've been disappointed in Trudeau. Poilievre doesn't excite me, scares me, and yeah, so that's where I regret to say that, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Canada's a big country. We're the second biggest country on Earth. And with that comes a diversity of natural beauty as far as the eye can see. So we sent our cameras out to ask people why the place they come from, or even the place they come from originally, is so distinctive. Our question: what makes your part of the country unique?
I think the West is very unique, living here in the Vancouver area. I just think we have the best backyard in the entire world. It is an expensive place to live, and I hope that we can find solutions for that. But when it comes to, recreation, when it comes to opportunity, standard of living, I think this is the best place to live in the world.
The water, the mountains, the separation, a more north-south cultural divide, Cascadia, makes this more unique in that regard compared to the rest of the country.
BC comes with no real need of promotion. It's a pretty spectacular gem. I was raised in the Edmonton area, and as a grown-up, I came out here in the wintertime, and frankly, I was shocked. I was stunned. I had no idea how you could get on a plane in Edmonton, Alberta, and an hour or so in the air, and then arrive at a place where there's an open ocean, and you could walk the seawall. I was stunned. I was stunned. It's a pretty internationally stunning place, this place, in terms of all of the beauty you can see everywhere every day.
My part of the country, British Columbia, Vancouver, Okanagan, hands down some of the most beautiful places in the world to live. Grew up in the Okanagan, lived in Vancouver for 3 years, world class. In the summertime anyways. The winter, it depends where you're at, a little unbearable on times, but overall, pretty special place.
Well, I live here. I walk around the seawall. I live in Yaletown. I grew up in Montreal. I live in Toronto. I've traveled the world a little bit when I was younger, so bottom line is this is probably among the top best places in the absolute world. I know there's other places comparable, but I feel like it's like art. Beauty's beauty, and just the intrinsic values here. Yes, they are unique. They're not necessarily going to be, competitive with others, although I guess some tourist bureaus might want to say so, but hopefully that makes some sense to you. I just love this place so much, and that's, for me, that's home. So there you go.
That it's not like any other part of the country, and that it's often forgot about by the rest of the country and the people that make it.
The light, the bright light, it gives energy to do whatever we want to do. That's my opinion.
We have a consensus government here in the Northwest Territories. We have Dene governments, Métis governments, community governments. And so there's a lot more participation in government here in the Northwest Territories, in Yellowknife and elsewhere.
I think that the outdoors that we have here really makes it unique. In the summer, I try to spend as much time as I can outside, and I hope everyone takes advantage of it if they live up here.
Oh, BC is unique. It's beautiful. It's by the ocean. The weather in Victoria is great, so all reasons that I love it here.
This is a kind of community that people really seek out.
And you can walk everywhere, plus we bike. We love it. It's so healthy. It's a dream retirement.
I think just the proximity to the ocean and being able to access just a body of water on every end, just kind-hearted people, close connections, being interconnected to your environment and just the people around. I think just everybody knows each other some way, somehow, and you can walk down to the beach on every end of the island. So yeah, I think that's what makes Victoria special for sure.
Living here in Victoria, it's the climate. I've been all across Canada twice, and this is the best climate in all of Canada, and I'm glad I'm living here now.
Well, I live in Victoria. I think it's just a beautiful city. I mean, for a city of its size, it has incredible resources in terms of entertainment, music, and the things that I'm interested in. But that's a personal view.
Here at the Yukon, well, I'm from New Brunswick, and I moved here for the mountains and all the access to nature that we have. That's everything's just so close, and it's great you can leave work and be like out on the trails within like 10-15 minutes. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I plan to stay for a few more years at least.
The Yukon? Well, why don't you come up here and find out? Come do the tow in Dawson. That'll make it unique.
Oh, the Yukon? I would say the density, the people, yeah, just all the space that we have. It's wonderful.
The landscape is much different than, say, the prairies or yeah, so I just like it here, yeah.
The Yukon so far. Yeah. We have just really enjoyed driving and seeing different natural wonders, and of course, you see the animals right on the side of the road, but just it's so beautiful, and maybe it's just this time of year, but it is really lovely here.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.